So the presentation, the intention or the objective of the presentation, the first part is to give an overview of codes and standards in Saudi Arabia and the neighboring countries. The second thing is to show the level of cooperation between USA and Saudi GSO regarding codes and standards. The third part will be an overview of the applicability of US code to the Middle East and ways to enhance it. The development, how it started in Saudi Arabia, it's different, of course, from United States. So I'm sure you know that. I don't need to tell you that in the United States, the code started progressively over so many decades. Started 1910 for the ACI and 1927 for the UBC, Uniform Building Code. After that, of course, as you know, the three model codes joined and became the ICC, International Code Council. Of course, in addition to the other standards like ACI and steel codes and or steel standard and different part of these. In Saudi Arabia, what happened, of course, we cannot go to do that way, so we decided we don't need to reinvent the wheel, so okay, we know that, especially that most of there's so much connection in education-wise, so most of us over there graduated from American universities, so it is making more sense to understand what we are doing, and the best way is to follow the American codes and do whatever changes regarding the environment and these things. So this is the main philosophy. That started in 2001, the formation of SPCNC, that's Saudi Building Code National Committee. So that was formed in September 2001 by a royal decree. So it is coming from the top, the order to develop the codes. And in that decree, different, it's specified really the source code, what to do, what to look for. So it gave us a almost open suggestion. Okay, you could follow, at that time, UBC is still active, UBC or IBC, ICC, Canadian Code, Euro Code, Unified Arab Code. So the decree wasn't really specific on anything. However, after the committee decided to go with ICC, and so that, the main source became the ICC. And of course, it has different committees here, the architectural, structural, electrical, mechanical, etc. So these are the main committees to the left of the screen. And also the National Committee itself, it's comprised of so many different players in Saudi Arabia. So for example, the municipality ministry, the fire department, which is the civil defense. So it's composed of, at that time, of 11 or 12 national entities. So that will make it easier to communicate, and then you don't need to later on to think who's doing what. For the source code, eventually we have, this is now, as you can see from the left here, the IBC and the IMC, International Mechanical Code, of course, IBC, International Building Code from ICC, IMC, International Mechanical Code, International Fire Code. So each one of these, there is a Saudi code coming from, supposedly using that. So that's what we call here SPC. That's the designation for the Saudi codes. And we are giving them numbers 201, 501, 801, IEC for the... Now comes to the structural part. We decided at the time that it's not sufficient to just go with the IBC because only, for example, IBC, there is one chapter on concrete, and it has about 20 pages simply saying what are the changes that you need to consider when you are using ACI 318. Now, being there in Saudi Arabia, ACI 318 is not accessible to us, so there's no point in just doing that. So we communicated with ACI at that time, and we have made agreement that we can have the ACI 318, so it will be also adopted and then modified accordingly. And we are calling that SPC 304. Similarly, for the ACI 530, which is the masonry, and we call it SPC 305, and also communicated with the American Society of Civil Engineers, so to get ASCE 7, and the steel with the AISC 360, and for the electrical, we went to the international or European IEC. Well, the general guidance on doing that when we started is simply to make a review of each of these codes that we mentioned there, and to identify what are the changes that that need to be done or whatever, to remove anything or to add or to be very systematic way, just list every section and decide based on that what the committee would suggest for any changes. So that was the general methodology, and based on that we have not too many changes, but yes, there are some changes. Accordingly, we published the first edition of the Saudi Code in 2007, and these are the list of them, as I mentioned before. So they are structural and other disciplines. Okay, this is cover of one of the codes, which is now that's the supposedly concrete code. So it is the ACI version. At that time we published it separately, so we have the commentary in one volume and the requirements in another volume. So anyway, this is the milestones for that one. We started in 2001, as I mentioned, and eventually the code became available in 2007. However, it became not mandatory, but at least recognized by the government in 2009. So there is a Ministry of Council, that's the MC decree. Here we have that decree over there. Yeah, published, so it's recognized now, it's official. This is the Saudi code at that time. It wasn't mandatory to apply it, but it is recognized to review it and for voluntary use at that time. Okay, so what happened after that? In 2010, the Gulf Code the idea of the Gulf Code started. So they saw the Saudi Code and the ministers decided, okay, why not do something similar to the Saudi Code? And during this period, started 2010 to up till actually last month was the last meeting in Kuwait, and in that meeting they decided that they will go with the Saudi Code itself. So it will not be a different code; it will be the same code, the same Saudi Code, to some minor changes, but it will be basically the Saudi Code that will be used for the Gulf. Now, also in 2015, we started updating the Saudi Code. So we decided to go with to update the 2000 edition, and now that's here. We started 2015, and basically in last year, September last year, the code was fully became available online, full edition for the similar idea, but now it's extended, as you can see here. So yes, for the structural, the same idea, but we are updating the source. So for example, here ACI 318, we are using version edition of 2014 of the ACI. And similarly, for any code here, we are going with the latest. Also for the code of ICC, we were adopting or following the 2015 edition of ICC. For the energy, really now changed to following the ASHRAE 90.1 and 90.2, and for the electrical, it's still with the IEC. now we also improved a little bit of in the work. So the technical committee, not like in the 2007 version, they have the final saying. Now, yes, we are giving a technical committee, but we have also external review. So when we receive something from the technical committee, we send it to special people with experience to review it. And also we have another editorial and internal review committee. And then once this is all done, it goes for public review online. So this is now new arrangement for the publication of last year code. Okay, so eventually we published, we have three volumes or three edition for each code. One of them, we call it CR, only code requirements. So we are publishing only the code requirement without commentary. And we have Arabic version. The Arabic version is not full translation. It is really pointer to section by section. So it tells what is that section is talking about. And so in brief, so we are not using, for example, equations or tables or anything. We are not translating that. Only the main statement. What was the statement for that? So that we call it the Arabic version of it. And then we have CC, code and commentary, which is another version combining the code and commentary together. So these are the list of code. We are having CR, CC, and AR. And this is an example of the code to the left. It's for the same code. You see to the left, this is only requirements. And to the right, we have here the code and commentary. So the blue is showing the commentary for that code. So this is the exact production or for the style for all the codes. They are in this format. The Arabic, similar to that, as I mentioned, it's only brief things. So you have statement here. This is not full translation. It just tells us what is that statement about. Then again, it is section by section, following the same thing. All right. So what are now we are done with the production of the code. It's about now the enforcement of the code. What happened really is that the code became mandatory last year also. So I mentioned that the ministers saw the code in 2009. However, only last year it became mandatory. And that was now the challenges, that how to make it and what are the challenges. So we can look at the issue here. I'm just summarizing really what are the challenges. So we have something at the design stage and the review of design, something about construction in compliance with construction documents, and material quality. So these are issues that we need to consider. So for the design stage, the question was, are engineering offices ready to design according to the new code? Of course, we cannot know that for sure. So what we are doing, hopefully that will help, is that doing some training courses, and we are adopting a program of training. And also we are hoping that universities and colleges will also do that their own for the newcomers. And also we are planning to have proficiency code tests that will give us something about the qualification of individuals. For the review, the question is about the building official. Are they ready to review the design as it should be? And that is, of course, concern here, and we are hoping that also to enhance their situation, the building official, by training, and also the idea is to outsource the review to third party. Hopefully, that will be available, and this is among the potential or promising solution that we are thinking of. For construction and compliance, so during the construction stage, also the question about the contractor, technician, inspectors, and it's the same concern really, where the only thing we hope that we'll do some training and some inspection and some check on the qualification using third party. There's no easy answer really, but I mean, we are aware of these challenges and we are trying to do whatever possible with them. Regarding the materials, of course, there's so many questions, so we are thinking of lab accreditation. We already have a body there, but I mean, try to enhance that. So also enhance the role of an accreditation body. So it's actually, there are some things just developed to become now more independent. It was part of SASO or the standard organization, and we thought this is not practical or not, there may be conflict. So effectively, about a few months ago, it became a full body and independent body for accreditation. Of course, many challenges, but hopefully we are doing something on that issue. Okay, the other thing we are doing for the implementation is to do it gradually. So this is also to buy some time for it. So now, starting this year, January 1st, enforcement stage 1, it is mainly for governmental buildings, high-rise building, etc. Stage 2 started a few months ago, and it is also expanding now the coverage. Residential, for example, will be next year, residential building, because they have more problems, and we'll show you some of the challenges for that. And so that by the end of 2022, all type of construction will be supposedly following the code. I mean, required to follow the code. Okay, in the implementation matrix, it shows the relationship between some entities within Saudi Arabia. That's including here Saudi Council of Engineers, or so, yeah, that's for the engineers, their role here. This is the accreditation body. This is SASO, the standard Saudi organization for standards. This is here the SPC&C, the Saudi code, and Ministry of Energy, self-defense for fire fighting, and MUMRA, which is the municipality ministry. So these parts, these entities, they need to, everyone has its own role to do something preparing for the enforcement. Okay, so during this, the development, this is the third part. I'm trying to show the challenges that we have faced while doing the work. So I give the title here, Applicability of the U.S. Code to the Middle East and Ways to Enhance it. So what are the challenges? One of them, it's about the construction materials. So, of course, if you think of the wood here is a major material for construction. In Saudi Arabia, that's not an option. So what if related to wood, that will be excluded, and now you need to do something. That's basically, or mostly in the residential code will be challenged. Okay. Now, the other thing is interdependency through cross-referencing. Each code has so many reference to other codes, etc. So for us, that's also a challenge. It means that I have to go through each reference and try to bring it or to have agreement with the other body, as I mentioned, for example, with the ACI. But that's easy now because we have a series of interdependency, so you cannot finish it all. The other thing is the codes, difference in measuring units and conversion accuracy. That's really not the ACI, but because the ACI it has both code. But I mean, I'm talking general. We have some issues that we found where the units is a problem, and when you convert it, also not that much accuracy. There is also a material standards now. So, for example, you'll find something called UL listing or UL labeling. So how are you going to do that when it is just telling you something like this? So it's not sufficient to use that statement. We have another challenge, which is big, is about the structural and architectural layout for residential buildings. They are, I'll comment more on this issue later. And of course, the normal way of geological and climate conditions, and that's including maps, risk maps for seismic, wind, rain, etc., and climate maps. Talk about some of these. This is the interdependency that I mentioned, for example, here, which is, I guess, very clear that here the statement saying, yes, it should be according with this standard. So it means you need to have this standard. And similarly, these are all we've done with these things. So this is the interdependency. The units, I'll give you some example that we faced with I mean, at the beginning, in fact, we thought we are not checking these things. For example, you see here that 140 Fahrenheit, it is 60 centigrade. Then you will find again 140, it is 38. And then you have 140 is now 93. That wasn't really, at the beginning, what the decision is simply remove the US customary units, keep the SI units. With confidence, some people did not even look at this. Obviously, there is something wrong here. But if you don't know that and simply take the SI units and put it there, it will make no sense at all. It will be so. Fortunately, we find that at a later stage. In fact, at the first edition or the first version, it went that way. So fortunately, through the review, we find that, and then we looked at it and find so many similar things. You can see here, this example here, it's an idea, okay, okay, so here 20 feet, it is 9,000, no, it's not that, it is 6 meters only, and you'll find it several times. Here, for example, you have 150 PSF, and it is converted to 62 Newton. Of course, this is pressure units, and this is force. So it cannot be, this is conceptually cannot be. So eventually we did the right thing, but that's also, we are just reporting it to make sure that we need to consider that, not to take anything for granted, and also for our partners to also look to the SI units. If you want to include them, then you need to work on them much better. And this similar example here. Here again, you see 6.5 gallons, 25 liters, which is okay. However, here, 6.5, it is 2,290 gallons, liters. So that's disaster if you're going to keep that one. Yeah. All right, here are some of the equation. This is old. This is very old, but yeah, this was a statement here of the EC, the modulus of elasticity, which was with more zero than should be. And also this equation, it was a long time also in the ACI. And so yeah, these are example of, now how what are the challenges? I mean, this is supposed to be easy because now we know it, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, it could just fine. Now, one of the challenges really is what I mentioned about the residential codes. Residential codes, I would like to share with you this concern because for us it is still a concern. We have wide beams, okay, this is the typical thing, and we have joists, and sometimes you have also solid slab and joists, so this is almost typical situation. So the questions, for example, here, does J7 is this one here, this slide, this joist. Would it require reinforcement, top reinforcement at this location? I mean, of course, if we are considering this to be a rigid beam, yes, the answer is yes, it's the typical thing. However, considering this is the situation, and we've done a lot of work, this experimental, we made a building, complete building here, and we also modeled it and simulation with a finite element and find consistent way. No, it's not working as it looks. If I just simply assume this is a beam, it's not a beam in that sense. Again, what about this beam? What I call here B3, B4, which is the designation here. Are they acting as a beam in the sense of for the shear, for the stirrups, for everything? And what we found, no, it's not the case. Also, is there a potential of punching shear within the beam? That will be, kind of absurd to put these words together. Punching shear in a beam. Yes, in fact, it is possible. And we have done also special additional testing, and it is possible to have that. The other challenge also is about the partition. Now, when you have a partition here, this part here, is it going to be carried only by that joist, or it will be distributed? And if so, how are you going to distribute the load? And do you need to have what for designing? These are the source of problems for most of the construction. This is now this experimental, but summarizing the challenges that we have, and we wish to. So yeah, we did some work here and published it in the ACI journal, I guess ACI Structural Journal back in 2011. We did also, for the sake of the wide beam, whether it is wide or not, the challenge is that, as you can see here, the narrow column. If you have a narrow column, it's a different issue than if you have wide beam, but also the columns are wide. So that will not be a big deal. It will be the same. But when you have a wide beam supported by narrow columns, this is another challenge, and we have also made some publication on this one, this experimental, showing, yes, the behavior will be different depending on what are the arrangement and for the stirrups. These are among the major things, and we still hope that we will find a way to solve it in a code format, okay? But we did a lot of work, and we have now very good experience, but we are not including them in the code, to be honest, because it will be kind of not proper way of that. Do the research and do it in the code. Okay, so these are other situations. Okay, this is about the effect of aggregate on creep. So this creep equation, and we developed that also considering the local materials, local aggregates, and from different sources. And we came up with the equations for that. And also this is for shear, question about the applicability. And here we are comparing the ACI and the European code with what we came up as a procedure. And that's the results here, which I believe is very much improvement. So this is maybe I'm almost done 1 minute. Okay, example of the maps that we developed for the Gulf, for Saudi Arabia and the Gulf region. So now, yeah, these are the what I just say GSO. It's the boundary within this map here. So it shows from Yemen to the south to United Arab Emirates to Qatar to Bahrain and Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. So these are the GSO countries that we are talking about, and the code will be applicable to these. This is the climate map, and this is the rainfall map and the seismic. Okay, of course we have more maps, but I'm just showing one example. And basically that's it, and thank you very much.
Since a lot of your design comes from Europe, how are you going to phase in design that's already done by Eurocodes?
No, I don't think the Eurocode is that much used in Saudi Arabia. I don't know about, I think that's also dependent on from one place to the other. Maybe in Dubai, I don't know, which is, I understand from different meetings that we have in the Gulf that, for example, Dubai and Kuwait may be tending to go that way, but not Saudi Arabia. And also Abu Dhabi, for example, they're also adopting the American code. They adopted the full set of ICC in 2009. So not for Saudi Arabia.
Thank you very much.